This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
We all want to not stress about money. We want to get our debt in check. We want to save for the future. Call it financial freedom. We just want to feel better about all the work we do and where that money goes, and also have some fun along the way. All right, sounds good. Well, how do you do that? You need a plan. You get in your car, you go in some place that's uncharted, like this whole financial freedom situation. What do? GPS. Tell me which way to go. Today, we're going to do your GPS to financial freedom. And this is essentially what he helps people with all the time, coming up with personalized plans. And they're plans that are easy to understand and things that are attainable. And it's so great to have him back with us. Richard Toral back on the program. How are you doing today?
Hi, Steve. Good. Enjoying the weather lately.
Oh, yeah. Here in the New York area, just coincidence, we're probably about 50 miles apart. After that blizzard and 2 feet plus of snow a couple of weeks ago, 58 degrees feels like summer.
Yes.
But you know what? It feels positive, and that's what we're doing today in terms of opening everyone's eyes to financial freedom, that it is possible when you have some type of a plan. And that's what you do at RMT Financial Coaching. Just bring that balance back in somebody's life. Also help them balance their checkbook, I'm sure, at the same time. So where do we start with our GPS here to get on the right track?
Yeah, so I came, I did not coin these steps or methods. I do get these methods from Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And I also read the 48 Laws of Money by Victor Carl. So these are their methods that they've spoken and tried and tested. But it's a good methodology to follow, and I use that with my clients.
Gotcha. So what's our first one? And is this in any order necessarily, or
Yes,
it is.
The order does matter. Yes.
Ooh,
Yes.
Okay. So we're starting with number one.
Yes. Yeah. Number one is you have to create a budget. You have to track every expense, and this will usually let you know if you're coming in under or over, if you're overspending, so this leads you to cut unnecessary expenses if you're overspending. This also can bring a point of maybe you need to learn some new skills, maybe get a better paying job or do some side gigs or anything to bring in extra income to make that budget work.
Now, when you say create a budget, does that mean and again, let's say that we're not the experts here. So even if it's in a notebook, you write down, okay, here's my budget. Here's my rent, fixed amount, not going to change. Entertainment, how many times are going to go out to eat this week? We know we shouldn't really do it that often. So let's say whether it's once or twice, it's $60. I'm going hypothetical. That's the budget. We're not going past it. Maybe we'll be under it. Is that what we're talking about here?
Yes. Yeah, you sit down and list all your expenses, right, including rent, housing, electric, utilities, and even things that are not fixed expenses. So expenses are the rent, the whatever subscriptions you have. Then you have variable expenses. Variable expenses may be things that don't happen every month, but happen every year. So like car insurance, maybe once a year, maybe twice a year. So those things you need to plan for a little bit differently. So you take the full amount for the year and you divide that by 12, and then you know how much a month you're supposed to be putting away for that. You're still building up to save to pay that off at some point. When the bill comes due, you have saved that $600 instead of when the bill comes due, you're like, okay, let me use my credit card.
So did I hear you right that you don't include those fixed expenses, the ones you always expect, or should you put that in this whole
You do
budget?
that too, yeah. So for example, we're in March right now. So let's write down all the March expenses. So you have the gym that happens every month. You have your cell phone that happens every month. You have
Yep.
your rent that happens every month. but you still need to think about the future. So you're like, okay, in August, my insurance bill is due for the car. So it's $700. So you should start every month. So you divide that 700 for the full year by 12 months, and you come up with maybe $50 a month, whatever that amount is. You put that on your March budget and you carry over, you put that on your April budget. So you're
Hmm.
saving essentially every month for that expense that is coming due soon.
Gotcha. This is a little unnerving because you're going to see it in front of you. So you're going to see the reality of,
Yes.
oh, I forgot about that one. Oh, there's another one. Oh, I could just go through your credit card statement. Oh, look at that one over there.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, you pull out all your statements and you see what you're honestly spending on. Your dog food, pet
Ooh.
care, hair salon, nails, going out with your friends, what's fun money, going out to restaurants, stuff like that. So,
Mm.
yeah, if you pull out your statements, you would usually see what you forgot to mention in your budget.
This is where your value, I believe, just a tiny piece of your value comes in because I don't think about the pet food. I have two cats and a smaller dog. Yes, you spend on that, but I would forget to write that down because I only buy 2 bags of food maybe once a month, if that. And yeah, they eat the same, so it's usually about the
Right.
same.
Yeah.
But I probably would have forgotten about it because it's not top of mind because it's once every, I don't know, 5 weeks or whatever.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But that stuff's expensive. Like the cat food. I have two cats, and I'm gonna admit it. I love them, but I buy the cheap food. And right there, I'm looking at just for one bag, probably $35, not counting the wet food. Then the dog.
Boys.
Yes, toys. I just bought some recently. Okay, yeah. I hate to use a cliche. It all adds up.
Yes, it
It,
does.
it
Yeah.
really
And you
does.
don't know that until you write it down.
You don't know that until you write it down. Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so creating a budget, tracking your expenses might be rhetorical, but let's get it out there. Tracking your expenses. What are we doing? How are we doing?
Right. Yeah. So you come in, you project that you're going to spend $1,000 for the month of March, and then April 1st comes and you're like, well, I kind of spend $1,500. So you can see what happened and you're comparing about where did you miss the target. And that's something that, life happens, right? We have to prepare for emergencies. We have to plan for those things. So I think one of the podcasts I listen to says like rich people forecast and poor people react. So it's like instead of us reacting every time to like, oh my God, this is happening an emergency, like the budget helps you plan for that. It helps you prepare for that instead of getting caught by surprise.
So you're suggesting again how much?
Well, it depends. Like I don't, like it all depends what your expenses are.
Yeah.
And you have to match it against your income. So it's a zero-based budget, we call it. So for example, you start out with you get paid $1,000 every month, let's hypothetically.
Hmm.
And then your expenses, as you write everything down, they all should add up to 1,000. That's a zero-based budget. So you make 1,000, you pay out 1,000, it's zero. Now, if you're over budget means you're only making 1,000, but you're spending 1,500 that you wrote down, then you're overspending. That means you're coming in over. So that is what you have to realize and say, okay, I either need to cut expenses or I need to go out and make more money.
Mm, gotcha. Okay. And you would say put away that emergency fund for a good month, including everything that you pay monthly.
Well, that's step number two.
Ah, okay. Gotcha. Okay.
But yes, step number two is you need to build a starter emergency fund. And we call it starter because this will help you start getting more into debt. Um, I would say most Americans cannot cover a $1,000 emergency expense right on the spot. So the plan is we save a little bit every month, based on your budget. And once you finalize your budget total, you can see how much money you have left. that you can allocate to these things. So the first thing we allocate to is an emergency fund. So we start putting away a little bit at a time, hopefully as quickly as possible so we can reach that $1,000. We want to do a $1,000 starter fund for emergencies. And that's just in case something breaks down, the car, something in your house, a vet bill or something that stops you from going to your credit cards, charging it,
Mm,
and then paying interest over months.
mm. Um, that emergency fund, where do you put that? I like to get granular sometimes because
Yes.
I'm far from a financial expert. So I hold my hand. Um,
So yes, I have three accounts. So I have a checking account, and the checking account specifically for only what to pay bills. So anything that needs to get paid comes out of the checking account, whether it's rent, credit card, bills, statements, um, you know, utilities, whatever.
mhm.
I have a savings account specifically for my emergency fund, and that's the only thing in there. It's my
Wow.
emergency fund,
Mm.
and it should be a high yield savings account, so at least it's earning money on your dollar. And aside from that, I have a separate savings account where all my money is going to that it gets automated from there. So if I want to invest in something, it leaves that second savings account. So that's the money I would have left over to invest.
You mentioned high yield on the savings. I'm kind of surprised lately. The yield has been, in my, again, far from the expert, but not a bad number when you compare it even to CDs, like a 6 month CD, 9 month, maybe a year. Like I was in the middle of that about 6 months ago, where I was like, all right, you know what? I'm going to take just what you're saying and put it aside, whether I should do a CD or the savings account. And the savings account, it's always going to be liquid, is pretty darn close to the CD. So I was like, you know what? Why am I locking it down CD? Then I got to remember to renew it, or all of that. I just threw it in the savings account, and I'm making just about the same amount of money.
Yes, your emergency fund should be high liquidity,
Yeah.
meaning it should be in a savings account. I would not use your emergency fund in a CD.
Yep.
I would not invest my emergency fund in a brokerage account or a 401k or a Roth IRA because that's for emergencies only.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And you
yeah,
need.
the CDs are like I think like the longer you go on CDs, like if you have 5 year CD, they give you a lower interest rate. If you do a 6 month to a year, they give you a higher yield for the
Yeah.
short term. And yeah, and they sometimes, I mean, that's nickels and pennies against the high yield savings account.
Yep. Um, so that's number two. Are we off to number three?
Yes, number three is pay off high interest credit card debt.
Hmm.
So once you set up your starter emergency fund of $1,000, and if you can do more, do 1 month's worth of expenses as a starter emergency fund. But once you build that, then you can breathe easier a little bit and you can start paying off credit card debt. And that's either doing the snowball method or doing the avalanche method. Snowball method is paying the smallest balance off first, and that kind of gives you a reward of like, yay, I got something done, tackled, and then move on to the next higher balance. And then the avalanche method is more cost effective. That one is based on interest rates. So like you take the credit card with the highest interest rate and you pay that off first, whatever the balance is on that. And then you move on to the next highest interest rate.
We skimmed this previously, but going to bring it up again here just to double check. Is it advantageous to roll that over, that credit card debt that you have, to a 0% financing? Back in the day, I used to do it all the time. Haven't done it in a while, so I wonder, is that a good way to go?
Yes. Because it saves you more money in the long run. So they do charge, I forget what they call it, but they charge you a percentage to transfer the funds over. So it's a transfer fee.
Hmm.
Um, and it could be like 1 to 2%. I'm not sure if it's up to 3, but it's 1 to 2% of the balance. But that amount is still cheaper than what you would be paying in interest on your previous credit card over the whole length of the loan.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And that's the problem. Like people just charge Christmas presents and holidays and vacations and they forget to pay that off. So in a budget, you should be planning for all that. So every month you should be saving a little bit towards your vacations, towards your Christmas gifts, so that you don't have to use credit cards in that manner. So
Yeah.
essentially all year long, you're saving for those funds.
Back in the day, I forget what they used to call it within banks, Christmas Club or something like that. And they would
Yes.
automatically take it out for you, out of sight, out of mind. But then come the holiday season, you got to pay bills. Then it's like, oh, wow, you found money. It's your money. But you
Yes.
might have
Well,
forgotten about it.
that's the next segment is how to automate all these processes. But yeah, you would be automated those saving transfers for that holiday club and the vacation club.
Gotcha. Any other thoughts on paying off that high interest on the credit cards?
Um, you have to build the emergency fund first. Some people start with the credit card debt and then there's an emergency and then they go right back to charging the credit card debt back up. So that's why the order matters. The order is important.
And I get
And
that. And intuitively, we would be taking a look at that. I don't know what they are now, the highest end, 28%, whatever,
yeah,
or higher. And the first look is, you're a ship and you're taking on water. So let me plug that hole first. But in this instance, build up the emergency fund so you have something to fall back on, and then take care of the hole in the ship, if you will, the high interest.
right. Yeah.
Mm,
And
gotcha.
just be consistent, attack that debt and get rid of it.
So number four is, just to reiterate here.
So number four is once you're done paying off all the credit card debt, then you come back to your emergency fund and you beef it up. So you're basically reallocating whatever's left in your budget and building up your emergency fund for 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. So again, this ties to your budget. You're in your budget, you would know how much you're spending a month, how much your expenses are. That includes housing, utilities, going out, having fun. All that should come up to a dollar amount for the month. So you multiply that times 3 months, and that would be your new emergency fund. And 3 months would be considered for people that have stable income. So, for example, if you get paid every Friday, or if you get paid every 2 weeks, or if you get paid twice every month, that's a constant paycheck. If you have a job where it's like commissions, where it's not stable,
Mm,
the income is varies depending on what month. There might be dry spells for a month or two before you actually get more commissions. So those people need to save up 6 months worth of expenses as an emergency fund just to cover a larger gap in case something goes wrong, in case you lose your job, um, you know. And the emergencies, the fund is for emergencies. So it's not like, oh, I can go on vacation. It's, you go on vacation, you spend all that money, and then an emergency comes up, and then you don't have any money.
mm,
So the emergency fund strictly is for emergencies if something breaks, and that's the beauty of it. Something breaks and unexpected, you have a $2,000, $3,000 expense, you have the cash. Use the cash, pay in cash, pay it off, and then or use your credit card for the points, but make sure you pay off the statement with the cash from your emergency fund. But that's what that is for. And then when the emergency is gone, you go back to rebuilding that emergency fund back up to the 3 or 6 months.
gotcha. Wow.
Yeah.
Thinking 6 months emergency fund. Whoa, you had everything up, but what a great feeling if you can get to that point, right?
Well, that's the thing. So I say balance, right? I want to, bring balance to your finances, and that's what it is. So you work hard for your money, so you want to make sure you're, not only investing in yourself and in your future, but also having fun. That's the balance in that. But there's also emergencies you need to prepare for, contingency plans that you need to build up. And yeah, you need to have fun along the way, but these are the things you need to think about.
Mm. Anything else we need to talk about with the emergency 3 to 6 month fund?
Um, Again, it needs to be liquid. So make sure it's in a savings account. Separate your accounts. Make sure that they're not commingled with your checking account where you can easily swipe and keep swiping your card and it gets spent. If it's still too hard, I would suggest using a different bank, a bank that you cannot just walk into, a bank that you can't just like, or leave the debit card at home. You're not carrying that emergency fund with you.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it's something to add a little more friction for you to like not easily spend it.
Obviously, debit card, not the emergency fund, but using a debit card versus a credit card is so advantageous because you know what you're spending. Um, I'll be honest with you. I don't use a debit card. I use a credit card. I got to get out of that habit. It's just I got into that habit, and I don't pay everything
Well,
off
that's
all the way.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not a bad habit. It's just a matter of your how consistent are you with paying off or
Right.
paying down the statement, your statement. I personally use my credit cards for everything, but I have a strict, I have a budget, so I know how much I should be spending on certain categories like groceries and restaurants and my gym and all these things. So I stay consistent with that. So I'm safe to use my credit cards. And I use my credit cards for the points. So I make sure all my credit cards have no annual fees,
Yep.
but they have cash back. And then I just swipe and swipe and swipe, depending on my budget. And then I get the points for that. But every month when the bill is due, it gets paid out of my checking account.
Yep.
And this way there's no interest charges or anything like that. And at the end of the year, I cash in all my rewards, and that pays for half of my Christmas expenses or Christmas gifts.
Beautiful. And it's being just mindful of that because you're getting points over here, but if you're carrying a balance and now you're paying for it, it's either a wash or you're in the red. You may be a little bit ahead, but yeah, you know what? Back to step number one, create a budget, track your
Yes.
expenses. It's really what it comes down to. So that's four. There's eight here in the GPS to financial freedom. We'll hit up the next four when we get back together again. If somebody wants to work with you, Richard, what's the best way to do that?
They can reach me by email. It's Richard at rmtfinancialcoaching.com. My website is also rmtfinancialcoaching.com, and my tree link is / RMT Financial Coaching.
And I would assume that you work on a plan with somebody, loosely following what we're talking about here. But again, back to the earlier steps, even those expenses that we need to track, we don't realize them. It's like when you go to an accountant to do your taxes every year and they ask you questions. All right, did you have any subscriptions? What about gas on your car? What about charitable donor? A lot of us don't think that way, but even the dog food, I know it sounds ridiculous, but that would have been
Yes.
totally off my radar. And you know what? It's an expense when you start adding it up. It's, it could be close to $1,000 a year when you start adding up what it is per month and more. And I would have been off my radar.
Yes.
I wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah, one of my podcasts that I listen to, they keep saying, personal finance is personal. And it's true.
Mm,
Everyone's finances are different and they're personal to them, to each person. And I like to keep it that way because when
mm,
clients come to me, I don't judge. I don't, it's let's look at what your spending is. If this is what your values are, then let's make a plan for that. Let's make a budget for that. And if you want to enjoy a little bit more of those things, then let's see where we can cut. Do we need to
sure,
cut credit card debt? Do we need to get rid of, you know, these lagging expenses that are dragging you down basically?
sure. Yeah,
But
and
everyone has their own personal finances, so
it's true.
that's what we go with.
You may look at my expenses and my subscriptions and think to yourself, is he crazy? What is he doing that for? And maybe one or two of those is important to me. And maybe you might not have the full story on why it's needed. Well, let's say a subscription to AI and you use it for whatever. But again, it's very personal. And that's where you do personalized plans to take control of your finances. Richard, thank you so much for today. Looking forward to digging into the final four next time we get together.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.